Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first virtual meetup. And we have Pedro Jesus joining us today to talk about Maui.NET, getting started with Maui.NET, right? So let us give it a minute or two for the rest of the people to start joining the stream before we start our presentation. Okay, so my name is Anish Lal. I'm your host for today's event. And joining us today is Pedro Jesus, who is a Maui insider and Maui community toolkit developer. We get to hear from him today. So Maui.NET is a cross-platform tool which is going to come out uh, the coming November with the .NET version release 7. So let me introduce the meetup group which is presenting this event. And it is called New York City Mobile .NET Developers Group. If you are in or around New York City, I would highly recommend you join this group for in-person events, which we will open soon. Right now, we are going to go virtual for most of these events, so it doesn't matter whether you are from New York or not. You can still join and participate in these events. All right. So let me get to the. Okay. So I'm presenting this QR code, so you can just quickly scan it and join if you wish to be part of this meetup group. All right. So this entire event is being sponsored, cared for, supported, tools provided by .NETFoundation.org, which is a nonprofit organization built to support the .NET ecosystem and open source around that ecosystem. So check it out at .NETFoundation.org, where you get to see what they do to promote open source code built around .NET. For example, .NET Nuke or Akka.NET or Maui.NET or I'm in New York, so just ignore uh, the uh, the sirens. All right. So this is a virtual user group supported by .NET Foundation, where you get to see events from all over the world, virtual events from all over the world, supported by the .NET Foundation. There are 380 groups across the globe. There would be an event, every few days. You can go there and you can see what sort of events are being posted there. It's not only mobile development; it could be several other things. And it's you can join by scanning the QR code. I present this QR code everywhere because it's much more easier to scan it, and I believe it is a year of the QR code, right? So next, this is me. I posted uh, I posted this event in several platforms, including a few meetup groups, Eventbrite and LinkedIn. And I saw an overwhelming response from LinkedIn with about 60-70% of most of the sign up is from LinkedIn. So I thought putting the information about me out there so you can scan it and you can follow me or connect with me on LinkedIn. And whether it is an event with the .NET Foundation or I do host other events related to startup space and things like that. So you can connect with me there to see what I'm up to, as well as what kind of events I'm putting it out there. Okay. Now that all being said, let me introduce you to Mr. Pedro Jesus. He actually joins us from Brazil. He's ahead of our time. It's probably a little late in the night for him. And he is going to walk us through about Maui.NET, which is in preview right now. And he is a member of Maui.NET Community Toolkit. So we get to hear his perspective of how to build this thing across Mac, Windows, Android, and iPhone. Right. Okay. So here I'm adding Petro to the stream, and I'm going to remove myself and just enjoy the presentation.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. So just wait a minute to show my screen. I'm not sure you're here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Can you share my screen? Put it on the screen.
Yes.
Thank you. Awesome. So let me organize here. So yeah, let's talk about .NET MAUI, right? What is it .NET MAUI? And a little bit behind the history about .NET MAUI, because maybe some of you doesn't know about this technology and also doesn't know about Xamarin or Xamarin Forms. That was like the beginning of the .NET MAUI itself. So let me introduce myself. I am Pedro Jesus. I am a software engineer and I am an open source contributor. I have been contributing with the Xamarin ecosystem since 2019, and now I am a core member on the Xamarin Community Toolkit and the Community Toolkit.maui. So that's it. Let's talk about .NET MAUI, but first, let's talk about behind of Maui history. So what do you have for .NET MAUI? We have the Xamarin. Don't know if you know about this technology, but the Xamarin itself first was a company made by Miguel Del Casa and another members from the old Novel company, and they built this framework that started with the name of Monotouch and Monodroid, whereas Monotouch is for it's the bindings for iOS, Objective-C bindings to C Sharp, and the Monodroid was the Java bindings for C Sharp. That makes possible to developers to build mobile applications using C Sharp. And in 2009, we have the release of the Monotouch, that is the .NET for iPhone. So .NET MAUI is kind of new, it's in preview yet, it's not being released, but this technology behind .NET MAUI is very old. It has been in the industry since the beginning of this century. So it's very stable platform to work on. So after that, a little bit after, we have on 2016 that Microsoft acquired Xamarin. So Xamarin joined the Microsoft in 2016, and after that, the idea, the plan of One.NET has started again, because of probably at the time it makes sense to buy the Xamarin due to his acknowledgement about the mono. And let's remember that the mono was the implementation of the .NET framework that is cross-platform, because the .NET framework from Microsoft just runs on Windows, and the mono was a version of that rewrite from scratch, but that can run on our platforms like mobile, macOS, Linux, and Windows as well. And those two screenshots was taken from the MATLAB presentations on the Xamarin Experts Day. So I encourage you to check out that. So that's it. Let's talk a little bit about Xamarin, and then we go back to the Maui. So the Xamarin App architecture looks like that we have our platform specific. So we have the Android and iOS, and we have Windows as well. Actually, UWP to be more specific. And we have and we can write this native code here in C Sharp, and we have a shared code based in C Sharp as well. So you don't need to know another languages like Swift, Objective-C, Java, or Kotlin to build with the Xamarin. You just need to learn C Sharp or F Sharp as well. You can build mobile applications with F Sharp, and with that you can have 100% native API access. So you have access to all the native APIs on all platforms. We have a high performance because it's like a native performance that we will have there, and we have everything right in C Sharp, including in case of the Xamarin Forms, that includes the UI as well, that you can write UIs in C Sharp or XAML. Okay, so about the native performance, how the Xamarin delivers that. So we already know that the native applications on iOS must be built using the IoT compilation that is ahead of time. So you need to build your app in this IoT mode that will generate a binary, and the iOS app stores just accept that format of compilation. You cannot do JIT on Xamarin, on iOS applications. So we have our .NET code, we have C Sharp and bindings that are like that native libraries that was binding to C Sharp, and we do IoT compilation that, and after that compilation, we have our application that is a .IPA, and that will run natively on our iOS devices that include, and also in iPad device as well. And for Android, you can take advantage of the just-in-time compilation. And we have the same thing here. The input is the same. And we have a compilation and link there. And after that, we have the APK or the app bundle, right? Because Google does not accept APKs on his store anymore. And in general terms, you know that just-in-time is we have a small size application, but we not have a very, very performance application. And on IoT compilation, we have a very good performance on the application, but our app size is bigger. And on Xamarin Android, we can take advantage of the IoT compilation as well. So if you need to have more performance or for some security measurements or requirements, you need to build your Android application using the IoT compilation, you can do that as well. And even better, on the Xamarin side of things, the Xamarin Android team is amazing. They made something called the profiler app. So you can run a kind of profiler, and that profilers will compile your application partially using IoT, and for the rest of application will be just-in-time compilation. So what that means, the goal of this is to improve the app startup. So if you want to decrease the time that your app is, the user press a button to open your application, and you want to decrease the time that the user is, the application is ready for the user input, you can do the profiled compilation. And that will just IoT your methods and code that you use for a startup application, and all the rest will be using just-in-time compilation. With that, you don't have a huge application size, what is better, and you can take advantage of the performance improvements on the IoT compilation. So moving forward, who's use Xamarin, right? Whose company, with projects? So all those players here use Xamarin or Xamarin Forms to build applications. So we have UPS, we have Siemens, we have Microsoft, we have Outback, and more recently we also have the academy using the Xamarin Forms to build their applications. So the people that made the Oscar use Xamarin Forms as well. So like if you have doubts about this technology, look just to the big players that trust on this technology and have been using it and have been succeeding with it. So .NET MAUI will be we will also take advantage of all this code base, all this acknowledgement that Xamarin has, and bring to that product. And I am pretty much sure that probably all those companies will move to the .NET MAUI because it's amazing. So let's talk about the .NET MAUI, right? You talk a little bit about the history, about a little bit of context, and let's see what is .NET MAUI and how it is architecture. So .NET MAUI, the first version is scheduled to be released on Q2 of this year, and we have a release candidate to be released on Q1. So probably near this month or next month, so it's close. And here we have a cross-platform way to build native UIs. So we take advantage of all the .NET 6 bits and codes and improvements, like that performance improvements, like this performance APIs, like span of T and other great stuffs, and you can use that on our applications. And since it's cross-platform, that means that you can target a lot of operational systems and other platforms like Windows with WinUI. So .NET MAUI does not support UWP anymore, as Xamarin Forms does. We can deliver on macOS using Mac Catalyst. We can deliver on iOS, iPhone applications, and in iPad as well, and also on Android ecosystem. And it's not here, but also we can deliver ties in applications with Xamarin and .NET MAUI, and is supported by Samsung itself. And on the .NET MAUI, we take advantage of the multi-targeting architecture. So we will have just one single project system and use a single code base. That is just one language to rule them all. We can deploy to multiple devices, as I mentioned before. Doesn't matter if mobile or desktop, and will be available on the .NET 6, but on Q2. And if you want to take a look on the code, because it's open source, and also the roadmap and how is the progress of that project, just go to github.com/.net/MAUI. And of course, since this is open source, you can also share your codes there and ask questions there as well. So another great thing that the .NET brings is the Blazor. That is a way that you can access the WebAssembly using C#. So you can, you don't need JavaScript to do front end on web browsers on the web, and you can use C# instead, and that is with Blazor. And Blazor is going to be merged with the .NET MAUI, so you can use your Blazor views inside a .NET MAUI application and have access to native APIs, because if you think about that, when you do like a PWA application, or when you do using web technology to create a mobile application, our application will run in the sandbox. So you cannot access all the native APIs, and even if you can access some of the APIs, will be hard to be accessed. And with Blazor and .NET MAUI, we don't have that limitation. You can have 100% access of the native APIs using C# code and use your views with Blazor. So, the best of all the worlds. So you can, as I mentioned, you can use UI components across native and web. It's built on top of the .NET MAUI platform, so you can create a project on the .NET MAUI and just draw everything in Blazor. Or you can have a mix, you can have some UIs that use Blazor's Razor pages, and you can have UIs that is native writing, like with C# or Xamarin. So we can have a mix of that, and whatever is better for you and your project. And this is a native app container and ambient control. So as I mentioned before, since this is a native app container, you can access all the native APIs we aren't on that sandbox. And also, as the .NET MAUI will be available on the .NET 6. So how is this native, right? Because we are talking about using C# and that is not supported by Apple or Google, and how that is native. So let's say that we have our app code, all right? and our API code should be delivered to these platforms: Android, iOS, macOS, and Windows. And between our API code and those platforms, we have some layers. The first one is that we have our .NET runtime. And the .NET runtime could be the mono or could be the core CLR. The mono will be used by all platforms but Windows. The Windows will use the core CLR runtime. So, like that history about merging mono with the .NET runtime that happened, the mono project, the mono code is inside the .NET runtime repo on the GitHub, but you still have that VM separately. And we have the .NET BCL, the basic class library, so we don't need the .NET standard anymore. We just use the same code that all .NET 6 applications are using. Then we have the bindings, that is the .NET for Android and .NET for iOS / Mac Catalyst, and we have access to the WinUI that is natively .NET. And after that, we have the .NET MAUI layer that will be our shared controls. So these structures make sure that we have native applications with .NET MAUI. And if you want to see the mono there, like I'm not lying, here is the link to the .NET runtime repo and the folder where the monos lives. And let's talk about the project structure. At the beginning, I mentioned that the .NET MAUI will be just a single project because that will take advantage of the multi-target architecture. And this is how the project will look like. And here on the left, we have the Xamarin project, Xamarin Forms project looks a scheme as we have today. So we have a .NET standard that is a shared library where it lives our business logic and services like API calls and common stuff to our applications. And here we have the Xamarin Android application, Xamarin iOS application. That is the platform-specific codes that lives here. So here we have activity and all the Android APIs, and here we have the app delegate and our iOS APIs. And on the .NET MAUI, those platform-specific code will be converted into folders. So we can have access to the native APIs directly on your multi-target project. And that is very good because we have just one project to load that makes Visual Studio work faster. And if you don't have a great machine, also that will improve your startup time, when you start up the solution. So I see a question here asking what is the Mac Catalyst folder for. So the Mac Catalyst folder is where all the Mac platform specifics live. So if you have some custom control or some code that you need to write just specifically for Mac, you will put your file or your code inside this folder. And the MS build will make sure that everything that is inside this folder will just compile for Mac Catalyst application. So I see another question from Peter asking if you can use MAUI on web as well. And I don't think so. We can use just MAUI for mobile applications, but you can take advantage of the Blazor views to build the application. So for example, if you have a PWA built on Blazor, you can take advantage of your work already. Like you can reuse all the views that you create on your Blazor application, put that inside the .NET MAUI project, and those views will be rendered inside your mobile application. All right. So let's see. Jose asks if Linux officially support as well, and the answer is not yet. There is a conversation between the Microsoft team and the community team to make that happen. If you go to the GitHub on the .NET MAUI, you probably will find a discussion or issue about the Linux support, and you can, share your inputs there, and give one more chance to make the Microsoft support Linux as well. Okay, so another last question before I move forward is Mac Catalyst different than native Mac apps? It's asking by Peter. So The Mac Catalyst is something new from the Apple, sorry, and that is the ability to run iOS/iPhone iPad applications inside your Mac OS. So the APIs are almost the same with the iOS, but they have some differences, small details that are different. So I would say that if you create a Mac application like with the old APIs, that will be different from Mac Catalyst. But at the end of the day, you can run Mac applications using Mac Catalyst, but it's kind of a new thing. So let's talk about handlers. Handlers is the new way of the .NET MAUI to create to be a bridge between the native controls and the shared controls. So let's compare here the old architectures, that is the architecture used by the Xamarin Forms that uses handlers, and the new approach. So the old approach, you have an entry handler, and that entry handler is communicated directly with a Xamarin Forms entry. So the entry handler is like the text view on Android or UI text view on iOS. I believe it is UI text view. I can be wrong, but it's like the editor when you enter words or typing. So the other architecture is very coupled. So it's very hard to people to create plugins or extend that control, or even you on your mobile project, you want to customize that shared entry, you have a hard time to do that. So the new architecture, they changed that. So instead of using a concrete class, they are using interfaces, because C# works better with interfaces than classes. And that iEntry is used by the entry handler. And the entry handler is placed like the handler on the Xamarin Forms. So it's a bridge between the shared control and the native control. So remember here, the entry handler, instead of consuming a concrete control class, is consuming an interface. So you can imagine what you can do with that, right? So here I can have my Maui entry control, and the Maui entry control is the same as the Xamarin Forms entry, because the .NET Maui is the evolution of the Xamarin Forms. So, in short terms, all the code that you have on the Xamarin Forms, your application that you write in Xamarin Forms, you can convert to the .NET Maui easily, and we will talk that in some minutes. And this entry control now implements that interface. So when we are using the .NET Maui, and the entry handler uses this interface, and behind the scenes is consuming this control. But what is the point to make this interface? Because you can customize that easily. We can have a comment entry, you can have a fabulous entry, and we can have a reactive entry. So the comment is an experimental framework by the Microsoft team that uses MVU architecture and paradigm to build mobile applications. And the comment is built on top of the .NET Maui. We have Fabulous, that is a framework that allows you to build mobile applications using Xamarin Forms today, but soon you will be able to use that with the .NET Maui. So you can build .NET Maui using F#. And you have a reactive entry. I don't know if you have a reactive extension framework, but this is just the idea. Like, let's say that the community wants Maui to be a first citizen reactive partner support. So we can create a reactive framework. It uses all the .NET Maui handler architecture. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just reuse everything that all the .NET Maui already have. And you can, to use that, we just need to implement this interface. And even let's say that on your mobile application, for some reason, you need to create a very, very customizable entry. You can just implement this iEntry interface and create your shared entry and reuse the entry handler. That is the bridge between the native control and the shared control. So this allows us much more flexibility and, turns the framework open to even more and more scenarios. So why the team changed from handlers to handlers? So as I mentioned, the handlers are tightly coupled with the Xamarin Forms component, so it's hard or impossible to extend that or customize that. And assembly scan is very, very slow. So the Xamarin Forms uses the strategy to register which handler will be linked with the shared control using assembly scan. For just-in-time compilation, this is terrible because in the runtime, you do this mapping and that takes a lot of time there. So it's not good. And it's very, very hard to access the native API. So like on iOS, if you want to use the blur effect that is only available on iOS, you have to use this kind of funky API to be able to archive that. And also, if you want to extend this API on your mobile application, it's not very easy to do. It's very confusing. And also the how the handlers works, we have this own element property changed, and we have a bunch of if else statements or a switch statement, and you have to check for each property that changed. So let's remember that MVVM we use the iNotify property changed, and every time that some property changed, that is means that some that set method of that property is executed, this method will run. And we have this very odd and terrible structure because it's very confusing. And we have some private methods that corresponds to each action here. And what is the actual strategy for the .NET MAUI handler? So we have the label handler here, that is the bridge between the native control and the shared control, and we have the from view handler. And we use the interface as a shared control because if this can be used not just .NET MAUI, but could be used by Fabulous, by Comet, and any other app framework built on top of the .NET MAUI. And here we have that link to the native control that this label is represents. That is the text view, the app compat text view. So this is on right here. So to create the native view, we have a create view method. So like it's very straightforward. You put your eyes there and you know what this is doing. And to update the text, we have this map text here. So every time that text property changes, this method will be executed. And the way this is built right now, we have extension methods everywhere. So they are public now, and before they were private. So that means that you can take advantage of this code here that's already in writing by the .NET MAUI team. So you don't need to re-implement this one. You can reuse it because it's public and this is static and this is a extension method. And how we register, like, okay, if this property change, I want this method to be executed. This is even easier because we have this property mapper now. So you can just give it the name of the property and the action that will be executed when that property changes. So the property mapper under the hood is just a dictionary, string, and action. So the key is a string and the value is an action, and every time that property changes, that action will be executed. And this is amazing because, dictionary is kind of a hash table, so it's way faster to find the key there. So, it's a performance improvement. So let's talk about the migration. And, let me answer this question first from Payam. Can I try Maui under macOS X right now? I'm not sure if the X version you'll be able to use the .NET MAUI, but yes, you can use the .NET MAUI on your MacBook. And right now I'm using the latest OS version. I believe this is Monterey. And we have still some work in progress there because you cannot debug Maui applications and you cannot use Visual Studio for Mac to do that. You will need to use the terminal to run your application. But besides this, rocks in the way, you can run your Maui applications on the Mac. So let's talk about the migration. So as I mentioned before, this Maui is an evolution of the Xamarin Forms. So everything that you learn from Xamarin Forms, you will use on the .NET MAUI. All your code that you have, your application that you have today, you can migrate that easily to the .NET MAUI. Because it's still C#, the APIs, the public APIs are almost the same, okay? So in theory, that will be easy to migrate your application. So what are the takings that you have be? So removing unnecessary custom handlers, because maybe you are using some custom handler to work around some bugs or to implement new stuff that is already implemented on the .NET MAUI. So, delete that code. And on the Android, use app-compat and Android DX libraries. Do not use the old Android support libraries. They are deprecated. Use faster renderers if you are using a Xamarin Forms application. Purchase a Microsoft Maui t-shirt. I believe that you can buy that on the .NET Foundation store or the .NET store. I'm not sure right now, but the design of this shirt is free and it's open source on the .NET Foundation GitHub repo. And upgrade to the latest reasonable Xamarin Forms for you. So if you are using Xamarin Forms today, the first step that you should do before to migrate is update your Xamarin Forms package at least to 5.0. And 5.0 has a bunch of services releases, so if you can use the latest services release, even better. But being on the 5.0 will be enough to do a fast and easy migration. So use source control. So when you do this migration, make sure that you are using a kind of source control, create a branch, do a small commits, try it, to do not lose your work there. Because if you have a real world application, probably you need too much time to do that, and that will not be a very, very easy task to do, because real world applications, we need to test that and validate that everything is working. So do not use obsolete APIs, because obsolete APIs will be removed from the .NET MAUI. Do not panic, okay? Just be cool. Do not use data pages or themes nuggets, because this data pages controls is obsoleted on Xamarin Forms, and themes nuggets are obsoleted as well. And do not neglect your app for the next 6 months. So I saw a lot of hate on the community when the people say, well, I will not use Xamarin Forms anymore, I will not use the .NET anymore or .NET MAUI, because the team is delaying the release of the .NET MAUI, and the Xamarin Forms will die. No, the Xamarin Forms will not die. If you need to build a mobile application today, you can start using Xamarin Forms to build your mobile application. Okay, let's remember that Xamarin Forms will have 1 year of maintenance from the Microsoft after the .NET MAUI is released. So whatever .NET MAUI release, Xamarin Forms will live for 1 year more. All right, so you have 1 year to migrate your application. So don't panic. I believe that is all. Do not. And the team also is working a tool to help us to migrate our mobile applications from Xamarin Forms to the .NET MAUI. And you maybe heard about this tool. Is the same tool that the .NET team created to help developers to migrate from .NET Framework to .NET 5 and .NET 6. So it's a terminal, is a command line application. So this will update your target frameworks and convert project files. There is the CS projects from the old one to the new model. There is the Microsoft.sdks pattern. And runs a part of the upgrade assistant that I mentioned. This is to migrate the Xamarin, the .NET framework projects to the .NET 5. And we will multi-target for .NET MAUI project, all right? So if you want to see what the progress of this tool, here's the link to the repo. Just go there, check it out, and you can see the progress there. And also you can download that branch and run on your machine and see if that happens. So we have another question here from Arseniev Sergey. I hope that I mentioned your name correctly. So any break changes expected? Is it safe to start to work on project version now? So yes, we will have a break change on the .NET MAUI. Like obsolete APIs will be removed. So if your Xamarin Forms applications uses obsolete APIs, that will break. What else? That will be another breaking changes, like the stack layout will not exist anymore, because they split it into 2 layouts. That is the vertical stack and horizontal stack. So so if you use the stack layout, probably you will have some issues. And the layout options that are what marked with the suffix in expand also will be removed because they don't be needed on the .NET MAUI. And the second part of your question, that is if it is safe to start to work on project version now, I would say no, because it's still on preview, and I will show some demo today. We will build very quickly application here using .NET MAUI, and you will see that still some bugs that can prevent you for being productive in the real world application, But 100% sure that if you can install the Visual Studio 2022 preview and start and play with the .NET MAUI, do it. And the good thing is, like, if you don't find too much resources about the .NET MAUI, how to build the application, go to the Xamarin Forms documentation, and you will see that I'm not lying. You can use the Xamarin Forms documentation to create a MAUI application. So it's very, very, very amazing. Another question from Reza: do you think now is the time to migrate from React Native or Native to MAUI? So to be honest, I am not very familiar with another frameworks, like familiar in terms of developing for them. So it's not fair that I say if that framework is better or bad than .NET MAUI. But I would say, like, if your team has .NET acknowledgement, a bunch of C# developers on your team, and you can, and also they are mobile developers, they already have some mobile acknowledgement, yes, for sure go to the .NET MAUI, because the learning curve will be very smooth because the people already know the language. So you have a good start point. And and I say, like, moving, because I am pretty much sure that you will not. I'm pretty much sure that you not build a mobile application for production, because that is not recommended. If you needed to build a mobile application for production, use Xamarin Forms. So go from React Native to the Xamarin Forms. All right. So about the project files today, this is how looks like the project file on Android and iOS Xamarin projects, and it's like the old .NET framework one. So yeah, it's very messy, and will be converted to this one. So much cleaner, much nice to see, and everyone loves this CS project model. So the tooling will do this for you. And C# source changes also will be doing by the tooling. So the namespace changes that will be automatically. The XAML namespace system also will be automatically changed. Also, you have like a breaking change. Yeah, another one from the color, because the color on Xamarin Forms is a struct and is in the Xamarin Forms assembly. Now the colors from the .NET MAUI was renamed by colors in plural. And is a class now, and is under the Microsoft .maui.graphics namespace. So also the tooling will take care of about this for you, but be aware that there will be a breaking change, because since this colors now is a class on your code, you need to check for null. And before you needed it, because it was structured as a value type, you don't have a null value there. All right, and probably more, because the tooling is still work in progress. So it's not be perfect, because UWP and the other Node.NET 6 platforms will not be supported by the .NET MAUI. And also, so that means that the tooling cannot convert your Windows target application to the new format, because from UWP to WinUI 3, we have some API changes, we have some packages, different packages in different namespace, in different methods, and all that jazz. So you need to do some manual cleanup. But will be blogs and docs about it. Don't worry. Also, the community and MVPs communities will be there. Like we already are dogging food, the .NET MAUI and the previews, and I am 100% sure that we will release articles and video tutorials on how to solve some of those issues. And this tooling will not get rid of red projects for you. So red projects is different from a single project. So is that where you have the shared code and the platform specific code that still work on Maui, and the tooling will not convert that to a single project architecture, but the team really, really strongly recommends you to do that migration when you can. Like remove all the red projects and make sure that everything is the single project. And this is not going to move the resources like inside the drawable folder or resources folders on iOS to the Maui image folders, and will not move the platform specific code like custom handlers, effects, or services. And what happened if you still need the Xamarin Forms control or Xamarin Forms effect or some Xamarin Forms code? Don't worry, we have the Maui compatibility packages that still uses the old handler architecture and the handler controls. And if you need to use them, you can switch to them inside your Maui program using these extension methods, configure Maui handlers, and through the method add compatibility handler. And mapping which shared control will be mapped to which custom handler or which control handler. So I said a lot. I'm a little bit tired to say, so let's code a little bit, all right? And Jose Silva asked if you can't compile WPF apps using AOT, and I don't know. I'm not a very good WPF developer. But yeah, probably you will find that on some Microsoft documentation. So let me share my Visual Studio real quickly. Sadly, I cannot share my entire screen because I have a huge 49-inch monitors, and probably that will be very, very messy. So let me zoom the code a little bit for you guys. So chat, let me know if the zoom is good enough or if I need to zoom a little bit more. And while I'm waiting, let me read more questions. What would be the way to start now for an experienced programmer? Experienced programmer which is a complete newbie for Xamarin Maui, starting with UI and thinking of target Android first and Apple later. Great question. So you kind of in the right path because you already have the .NET acknowledgement, and so you don't need to learn a new language. I would say to recommend you to study a little bit the Android applications. Sorry, the Android platform. You can use the Microsoft documentations or even the Google documentations. And this is amazing because as a Xamarin or .NET MAUI developer, you can use the Google and the Apple Docs and the Google or Apple tutorials to learn how to build some feature. And you just need to know some tweak to translate the Java or Kotlin code to C# one. But if you can read Java or Kotlin, you can use their tutorials to create your features there. So get used to Xamarin, to Maui, get used to the mobile platforms, and after that you probably will be good to go. And the business logic models, services to connect to APIs will be reused on your Android and iOS applications. So you just have the work to create the UIs for the Android applications or migrate your WinUI views to the .NET MAUI XAML, because the XAML is not the same. The WPF XAML is not the same as the UWP, it's not the same as the WinUI, it's not the same as the Xamarin Form, that is not the same of the .NET MAUI. So yeah, sadly, we do not have the one XAML. So thank you, David, for the compliment about my skin cars for code. Yeah, I have good taste, right? So will Maui support menu bars and rainbow bars and stat bars in terms of UI? Yes. Pretty much sure they will support menu bars and status bars. If they do not support the status community toolkit, because we already have that for the Xamarin community toolkit. So when we go to the community toolkit.maui, we will need to migrate that code to our community toolkit if the .NET MAUI doesn't supply that out of the box for us. So okay, so let's do a quick dive into the project. So I have here my Maui app 9. It's an amazing name for application, and it's just one project. And look here that on the appendices I have the .NET, Android, iOS, Mac Catalyst, and Windows. So I can target all those platforms specifically. I double-clicked on this CS project here, and let's say that I don't want to support Mac Catalyst application. I just needed to delete this one, save this file, and as you can see here, the Mac Catalyst goes away. So it's very easy if you needed to, and if you needed to support that again, just add the target framework here, and boom, that will be appears here, and we'll restore your nuggets in your project, and we'll see if you have everything that is needed to build your application. All right. So also here we have these platforms folders that will be built out of the box for you, and if you remember from the slides, on the old version, the platforms folders are on the root of the project. Now they use these platform folders, and inside the platform folders, we have all these applications here. So we have, for example, a main activity application, and we have this attribute here that help us to customize our, what is the name of that? Android manifest. So I'm saying this is the main launcher. So when I start my application on Android, this will be the activity that will be executed. And I have some configurations like screen size, orientation, UI mode. So if I change, for example, the orientation, I cannot present my app in landscape mode. Also, I have my Android manifest, and my Android manifest is the same structure as the Android one. So if you are a skilled Android developer and uses Android Studio, this will look the same for you, right? It's kind of the same. And the good part of the Xamarin Android or the .NET Android is that you don't need to write here a bunch of things. You can just use attributes, and in the compilation time, the build time, we will have a bunch of MS build tasks that will customize Android manifests with the correct instructions based on those attributes here. On the iOS world, we have our app delegate one that will just create a remote application, and that the same main application that we have on Swift code that will run that application that way. You can ignore those red squiggles here. Probably they something regarding the history in the build. By the way, let me build this here just to make it safe. And yeah, and for Windows as well, we have our app manifest, and we have our app WinUI application here, and we have app.xaml, where like the same WinUI structure. So we are using all the native structure to build this here. So let's talk about this application itself, what we will build here. It will be very simple application. I will create an interface, user interface here, that triggers an API, and we'll download a comic, all right? And here we use MVVM to do that, so I already have some code here. I have my base view model that implements some services that's already implemented. I have my notify property changes implemented here, very handy. I have here my services, that is the comic service, to be able to use HTTP client to download the comic and present that comic to me. And I have some, I use in JSON, the construct.json to serialize the JSON response from the API. Oh, ignore this is in Portuguese. I forgot to translate to English. I am using configure files because, if you're a .NET developer and you don't touch the UI thread, you don't need to change anything on the UI, use configure files. That will be good for performance. And will prevent you also from some deadlocks if someone is not consuming your asynchronous API correctly. So let's see if I have some questions so far. Any hope that Maui will work in Blend? From Felipe Cordes. I am 99.99% sure that no, we cannot use Blend to create Maui applications. Hearts for you, Gustavo. And let's see if you have more questions. What about permissions? Will it work same as does in Xamarin Forms? Yes, David. They will work the same because the Xamarin Essentials, that is the official library that works with permissions APIs on the Xamarin Forms will work, is inside the .NET MAUI. So you don't need to install any other plugins. You just need to use the .NET MAUI framework, and you will have access to the let's see here Microsoft.maui.essentials, and here you have all the essentials APIs like permissions, thread, geolocation, and etc. So you are safe there. So this is my services. I have just a service provider. You know that because now the .NET MAUI uses the Microsoft Extensions Dependency Injection. That is the same DI framework container that is using on the ASP.NET. So if you are an ASP.NET developer, you will use the same dependency injection container. So no need to learn anything new. So I just grabbed the service provider, and that is implemented differently on each platform here. So like on Android, I use this one, Maui application, current services, and if I tweak that to iOS, this one will be used. So, very, very straightforward to use. This is amazing. And I have my shell application here. This is a wonderful way to create your mobile applications using shell because it simplifies your navigation structure a lot. So if you are on the Xamarin Forms developer, you will know what I'm telling about. Imagine that you have a mobile application. That application needs to have a flyout page. That is the old master detail page, and also have to support tab navigations. Also have to support tabbed pages for navigation using tabs. From the Xamarin Forms, normally without shell, that is a nightmare. You need to care about a bunch of stuff. If you implement your own service navigation or navigation services, it's kind of terrible. It's very scary to do that. Otherwise, on the other hand, with shell, this is just delightful. You don't need to care about anything. If you need to use tabs and or flyouts, you can describe your navigation through this XAML here, and that will just work. And as this application is a single view application, you will see that I do not use the flyout pages, neither nor flyouts nor tabbed page as well. I'm not using that. So you can do that with shell as well if you don't use to have a flyout or tabbed page. You are 100% good to go. And on my app.xaml, that is the same idea of MIUI. I am doing my main page and instantiation new app shell. That is the shell that we saw a little bit earlier. And also we have support for themes. Like if I want, I have my primary color that is defined here, so I can have access to all those styles and colors and resources in all parts of my application. Because I defined those here, and I can, define more with the key that I want to be, any key that I want to be. So styles for the Wii. And last but not least, I have my model here. That is the C# object representation of my JSON object that will be consumed by API. And to create this model, I used this website here. This is just amazing. Just copy your JSON there. You just paste your JSON there, and it will generate just for you, and also has support to another languages like Swift, Java, JavaScript, and a bunch of others. Does Maui support drag and drop? Philip Cortez, you say drag and drop to design the UIs like we do in Forms, or drag and drop like in your application? You have a feature to drag like some item on a collection and rearrange it. You know, which it is, if you can rephrase that, that will be awesome. So let's try to run. I built. Yeah, looks like there is no errors. I will try to compile this here once for Windows, and that will use WinUI. And also I have the Android here as well. But if that works, I will not share that right now because I need to switch, blah, 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 and will be just a blank application. So nothing to see. Okay, in application, yes. .NET MAUI will support drag and drop features on your application because Xamarin Forms already has that feature. So you can use that as you want. So let's code a little bit here, right? So let's create my UI first. And my UI is this comic page.
Pedro, your screen sharing stopped.
Oh, let me share that again. Sorry, people. So here I have my binding context that is set to be my comics view model. That is this view model here that we will work on that later. But moving here, so I have a grid layout that is I can specify rows in columns and arrange my controls to be like in row 1 and column 2 or row 0, column 0. You know, you can have this kind of grid separation of your controls. That said, let's build this UI. So since it's a comic one, I want to present an image here, an image control, and I will give it a margin of a 5. So the margin is to be a little bit spaced from the corners of my screen. You know, give it a little bit room. The aspect of my image will be aspect fit. So that we'll try to we'll grab that image. There is a string or a byte array, and we will render that image using the all available space for that control and for that layout. Yeah. I will give it a array request of 500, and my horizontal options will be to fill. So I want my control to fill everything horizontally. And also I want a button because I want to, every time that I press that button, I want to load a new comic. So grab a new comic will be that X for that button. I will put it on the center because, you know, that will make the UI looks like professional. All professionals use centers as alignment. I will give it a margin of the value 10. And the margin I can specify with one value. So that will be for all regions like left, top, right, and bottom will have a margin of 10. I can specify in this way with two numbers. And that means that first number is for left and right, and the second number is from top and bottom. And I can have described as 4 numbers. And this is left, top, right, and bottom. So since all the sides will be the same value, I just will do once. So I have here my command, I will use binding, and looks not sure if you can see my IntelliSense here, but it shows me the properties on my view model. So I don't need to remember which command I will use. I have that for me because my memory is terrible. And let's position this button, on grid.row1. So we'll be at this position here. And this star here is just saying like, this button will use all the available space that I have on that layout. And And yeah, I will remove this last here, the last auto here, because we will not use it. After that, I have activity indicator that will represent uh, a loading control to present my user that I am loading something, I'm doing some work. So I will put on the center, also on the center, and I will make a row span 2. So the row span is a property that says like this control will be inside the row 0 and the row 1. So this control will be we will use all the layout here. Now this image we will use just the row 1, and this button will use the room from the row 1. And I didn't specify, but when you if the row is 0 and or the column is 0, you don't need to put that as the default value. So because of that, I didn't use the grid.code there. Okay, I have my UI, and that will not do too much because I needed to code my view model to present the image. So let's take a look on my view model. My view model here inherits from the base view model that already have the set properties, that is the property changed MVVM side of things. I am using the Microsoft Toolkit.mvvm because it's the best library to MVVM frameworks. It's very performant, and we have a bunch of helpers there. So here I am using a simple relay command, and that allows me to use it like I command. This is, I believe this is I command. Let's see if it is. System.input. Let's see if the compiler will be happy, and this happy. So this is just the implementation of that I command, but with the async support. So instead of being a void command, command execute is a task. So I can take advantage of all that async and await goodness. So I create my task here, I create my code, and on the construction, I execute this command. And I am executed because when the user opens my application, I want to automatically present a comment there. If I do not run this command, that will not work. And we, as a good developer, know that is not a good practice to call async methods inside the constructor, because you cannot be a async constructor and you cannot and you cannot have a wait here. You know, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't exist on C#. And comments are a great fire and forget APIs. So I just executed the comment, and I really do not care when this will be finished. And since it's inside the comment and wrapped, I will have all the goodness of that tests, like it can capture the context, and also exceptions will be handled. So here I have this very useful common pattern for MVVM Xamarin applications that is busy. And here I make sure that if this busy is true, I will not run this command again. And I have a try finally closure here. And on the finally, I set this busy to false, because if some exceptions happens here, I make sure that this busy will be false, and I can try again and reuse this command again. So let's see if I have some questions here so far. From Jose Silva, does Maui use mono runtime as Xamarin? If yes, does mono runtime was changed in Maui? Thanks. So yes, the Maui will use the mono runtime for all platforms but Windows. The Windows will be the core CLR runtime. And the second part, does mono runtime was changed in Maui? Yes. The .NET runtime thesis continues working with the .NET MAUI the .NET runtime improvements, and those improvements also applied to the mono. So better performance, more stability, more features, everything. It's like a work in progress thing. But right now, it's still a separated code from the .NET runtime. And that is not bad, okay? The modern runtime is very, very good on the mobile applications because, and the Mac environment, because it does that since the beginning. And the core CLR is great on Windows because the core CLR is optimized and is using on Windows since the beginning as well. So they are taking advantage of those two technologies and using it to on where they do best, the better their jobs. And David, does Maui prefer grids of stacks layouts, or do you still have the in as option? Yes, David, we have stacks as options, but as I mentioned before, we do not have this stack layout anymore. We have this vertical stack layout, and we have the horizontal stack layout here. So you can use them as well if you want. And let's see. Just asking if you can compile Maui Windows apps using IoT. I am not sure if the WinUI already supports IoT compilation. If it does, yes, we can do that. If it doesn't, you cannot do that. So back to the code. So for the code here, I will implement like the API call. So I will have like a comic here, a comic module that will not be initialized yet. And my IntelliSense is kind of sad with me. Let's just do a quick review here just to see if I can have the nice silly composing helping me here. So what are you doing? What are you doing here? I will call the API service for the comic services, this one here, to grab a comic, and I will see if there is a valid comic with this method return a valid task here. If the comic is null, that means that the call was not succeeded, something bad happened. So I will present a display alert and will return false. That way I can manage my code here to just leave the code there, to leave this method. So if max number is -1, so this max number is this guy here, and the -1 will be like I initialized one. So I'm pretty much sure this is the first time that I'm executing this code. Then I will do the comic await API service get latest comic async that will grab the most recent comic. And since this is my view module, I don't need to care about returning to the UI thread. So configure await false there. And here I will make sure that API response here on this comic is a valid one. So I will do if await is valid, is comic valid, and I will pass my comic here. And if it is a valid one, my max number will receive a comic dot no. Otherwise, that will return false here, and this if will not be executed. And else here, because if the max number is not -1 or a negative, I will do the call here. Wait API services dot get comic by ID, and I will do this comic ID here. This is just a random value here where I have my max value here, and I will do some random value between 0 and this max number. So comic ID, and I will pass max number. And configure await.false again for loading. I will validate if it's a comic, is comic valid, comic. And I don't need to set the max number again because when I get the latest comic, this max number, this number here is like the ID of the comic, and from what I know, this number here is the kind of all other comics will be less than this number, so I don't need to reset it. I just do that once, if that makes sense. Finally, but not least, I need to show that comic to my image control. And I have this comic URL here, and I will just set my comic URL value to the comic dot image dot toString. So the compiler is complaining here because he says that could be a new reference. I will put here an exclamation mark because I know will not be new because I'm checking here for new. But the WASM doesn't know that, so I am just telling the WASM, hey, don't care about it. I know what I'm doing, and I know this is not new. On the other hand, I don't know if this image is not new because let's go to definition of this image. It's a URV object with this question mark here. So if this question mark says this, hey, this could be new, and yes, could be for some bug on the app on the API side, or maybe it's a normal behavior for the API. So I will put this check mark here, and if it's not new, I will grab the toString value for that URL and present that to my UI. So here I forgot to bind in my source to comic URL. So every time that comic URL changes, that will be a property change and the UI should be updated. So let's see if everything is happy. While it's compiling, let me show my constant file here. That is just the information about the API that I need to use in my Maui program here, where I register my comic service as a singleton. So as I mentioned before, this is the same that I used on the ASP.NET. Okay, I will share my whole screen again. And as I mentioned, let's see if that works, all right? I have a zoom thing here, and I can zoom here if needed. But this is my entire screen, as you can see. Is very... Click on this button that is grab a new comic, and I will, let me minimize this, and I will click here, and nothing happens. Well, let's put a breakpoint and see what is going on there, right? So I will put here on the try, click here. So okay, my button's working. I can see the try here is triggered, and let's do another step. And the max number is not -1. The max number is 2582. And I will go until here, and okay, I have my comic here, and my comic is a valid comic. I have an image here with a web address there. So I will check if it's a valid one, and it is because we saw that on the debug session. And my image here is this one, and I passed to toString, and that I should be able to see, and I am not seeing. Why not? So let's stop this application a little bit, and this is a no bug on the .NET MAUI, and that for image source, the binding is not working. You saw that the binding for the command worked, but the image doesn't. So to work around that, I have this code here where I check if my binding context is a comics view model, and if it is, I will call it a VM, and I will assign it to the property changed here. And I will be listening if the property name is the comic URL. If it is on the UI thread, I will update my image source. And I will do the same for my indicator is visible and is running property, and I will attach it to my is busy. So this is a complaining because I didn't specify those names on the other side. So as you can see here, I have my project that I am using as reference. So this one should be xname img, and this one xname indicator. Perfect. Let's try one more time. Fingers crossed, and let's see what happens. While that, I will see if we have some more questions. They're asking about the IntelliSense. We IntelliSense fix. Oh, come on. So, okay, I will answer you later because the Visual Studio is complaining for attention. So here is the first time, right? So my max number here is -1. So I should enter here and they will load the latest comic. And boom, we have that working now. So I can resize my screen. This is a WinUI application. You know, I have all the WinUI structure here to use that. So if I click here again, I will execute that code, but remove that breakpoint, and we'll load a new comic there. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So it's very easy to create a mobile application that shows comics. But yeah, I mentioned that Maui is cross-platform, so let's try on my Android device here. So I will just change that to Android, and I will press play here. I will build that again, but now targeting Android applications. All right. So what's the questions? Will IntelliSense be fixed that I don't have to recompile to discover a new country in the Xamarin record behind it was software to Xamarin Forms. And yes, the Xamarin Forms history and the code behind the history from the Xamarin Forms is way, way better. The tooling is amazing. On the Visual Studio 2019, so you don't need to recompile it again. You may need to recompile, but that is a very, very odd scenario. Like, you know, it's the world as apocalypse scenario, how you need to recompile that. But by default, it's beautiful. Thanks for all the work you guys do for us. Amazing economic this can be one. Yeah, the .NET MAUI team is really amazing, and they are doing a great, great job on that. Let me stop it sharing just to make the build go faster. Okay, guys, if you have more questions, feel free to ask. I'm just waiting to deploy on the Android. Let's see, from PJ Clada. Would it be reasonable to think of Maui as a base platform for most of our future use applications, with the possibility of moving such applications to other platforms? Yes, absolutely correctly. So, like, if your business has some requirement or some plans to build to target the mobile applications or even macOS applications or other platforms, the Maui is the way to go. All right, you just the bad part that I can say is that you will need to learn how to build your UIs with the Maui XAML and create that using Maui XAML. But if you don't, you still are able to create the native UIs. For example, you can create WinUI screens using the XAML for WinUI. That is completely fine. As you can use the storyboards to create UIs for iOS, as you can use the Android XAML controls to create UIs for Android using the XML for Android one, because this is native. Okay, so this is a good thing, you know. Like I heard a lot about developers asking for a Xamarin course, Xamarin tutorials that do not use forms but use the native APIs, and I just tell them, go and watch tutorials or courses teaching do Android development on Android Studio, for example, because you will draw your UI exactly the same. The code part, the logic part will be different because you need to convert from Java or Kotlin to C Sharp, but the UI will be the same. You can do that. So let me share my mobile device screen. You share just the mobile one, right? So here is the mobile, and I have the same application running on mobile. Only thing that I have to do is to change the target framework and compile it again. So yeah, this is, let me change it to another one because this is a very tiny one. So as you can see here, but will be very, very fast, it's kind of spinner. At the middle of the screen, there is my activity indicator telling the user that I am doing some work on the background thread, that is reaching out to the API and downloading the comic. So yeah, I could be here all day changing comics. I really love this comics here. So people, this is what I have for, this is what I have in terms of code for today. So let's wrap up to the my PowerPoint, and let's finish it, right? And also asking questions and interact a little bit. So okay, just waiting for my screen here. Hello, Anish. Are you there? You are muted.
Hello, Jesus. That was a fantastic presentation. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. You can scan the QR code which is on the screen to see upcoming events. And once again, thanks. And it was a good participation, and a lot of people watch it live. So the recording of this would be available on YouTube. Along with that, I would like to apologize to those who have signed up for this event after seeing it on LinkedIn, who are across the globe, and it certainly is an odd time for you, like 4 in the morning and stuff like that. So next time I will try to be more accommodating, but there are no right time if people are signing up from all over. Thank you so very much. There is one more question, Jesus. You want to address that from Jose?
No,
No.
that
Okay.
is. I believe that I already answered that
Yeah, you
question,
answered
right?
that. Okay. All right.
Maybe he's missing.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. And once again, have a good night, have a good morning, whatever that is. And then see you at the next event. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Pedro. It was a fantastic presentation.
Thank you for having me.
All right.